So good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. A brief introduction before our three speakers take the floor. So we are FrenchProduit. The slide means in English, the community that connects product builder across across France through 8 regional chapters. We organize meetups, and we also have various initiatives to bring together the community. Our key communication channel is Slack. And so we invite you to join this community to get all the resources we share to help you grow in your product career. There are also various initiatives like mentoring, diversity in products, or even Mon Petit Gazon Leagues. So feel free to just join. So there are over 2,000 people in the Slack channel. If you are not part of it yet, you can flash this QR code, or you can just come and ask us to join the community. Our core values are very simple. It's a free community where we talk amongst peers, and we don't intend to convert you to anything or become evangelist of any sort. We just want a wide, passionate, and caring community about product management and product building overall. Next is our fantastic team here in Bordeaux. So you have Martin, Arnaud, and me tonight, but Margot and Camille also are part of this community. We organize all the meetups here. And if you or company would like to host future meetups, or if you would like to be a speaker, then just come and reach out to us. These meetups couldn't happen without our sponsors. They believe in spreading and decentralizing the product knowledge from Paris to anywhere in France and beyond, thanks to Zoom. So the first one is Advisory. It's an historical key player in product management, design, and agile methodology in France. Their activities covers coaching, strategic consulting, and deployment of technical teams, and they are present in Paris, Lille, and Brussels. The second one is Sendinblue, digital marketing platform for small companies to keep relationship with their customers. They're leaders in Europe and US markets, which is cool for a coal company. And the third one is Exalt, consulting startup who reinvents consulting itself using agile methods. They're present in Paris, Lyon, Bordeaux, Lille, and Nantes. And finally, our local sponsor is BetClick, a leader for online betting on sports events. Their offices are nearby, and they have at heart to bring together a great product knowledge here in Bordeaux. We'd like to have a very special thank to our host, Back Market. Thank you for believing in this new format of product talks, for hosting previous ones. So about tonight. So for 3 years, we've been talking about product methodology, about giving actionable tips and top-class knowledge from growing product community. But tonight, we try something new. We create a new form of product talks that will take you beyond your squad environment and realize the impact on society your work has every day. These are the product impact talks. And it takes a great team, courage, perseverance to release a vision to the world. A few weeks ago, I had the joy to have brunch with Solène to brainstorm on this meetup and decide on the topic. We stayed 4 hours talking. In a blink of an eye, a huge queue formed outside. A few people were probably envying our table, and we probably were the most hated people over this brunch. Anyway, Solène talked to me about her vision and the vision of Getaround on what should one own, rent, borrow, or just contemplate. We discuss how a car could lose its social status to become a shared commodity. And with this, how could car sharing change the way we live and move in our cities? How can car sharing can change even the way we build and the way housing are constructed? To bring to the table different angles, we added Charles and Dimitri to the table to bring their perspective on product management for Charles and public and cities relationship for Dimitri. To briefly present our different speakers, so Solène, you're head of product design at Getaround, and you have your previous experiences on screen. Dimitri, you are a business developer and city relationships at Getaround, and you've been working at Getaround for a few years also, like Solène. And Charles, you are head of product and sustainability, and that's very interesting to actually mix the two notion in your job title, which is something that we're going through this meetup also. So thank you all three for being here, and let's start the talk for now. So the first question that came to my mind was, a few years back, there were various actors on the car sharing industry. How is this industry growing and structuring itself? And what's exciting about Getaround's positioning on it? So if you want Charles to start.
Yeah, we're happy to. So let's start with the really macro perspective. The transportation industry took a big hit with COVID, and car sharing was deeply hit also, like any transportation actors. But since the end of, or like the improvement of the COVID situation, steady growth is back. We also see currently some kind of consolidation where a few actors, and specifically French players, have been bought by American players. So first, in our case, Drivey, and more recently, also Wicar. We've also seen car manufacturers experiment in this field to try and build digital services and provide the asset, but also the platform for people to use this asset. And we're seeing increasingly in different countries, we're going to talk about it later, cities are also getting involved in the industry, trying to help structure it with laws, but also with parking, which is a big topic for us. Regarding our positioning, I think what really sets us apart is the fact that we're digital first compared to other players, because we're heavily investing in connected cars. So you can, most of our cars are usable from your smartphone that you can unlock directly from the app. We're also a marketplace where other players own the cars themselves. We don't. And we're hardware manufacturers as well, because in we build some of the devices that we use, the IoT devices that we use in some of our cars.
So one of the team is actually building the hardware within, like at Getaround. Yeah. Okay, it's not externalized, or. So
we also have external partners, okay, but we're some of the hardware we're building ourselves.
Okay. Do you want to add anything, Solène or Dimitri? Feel free to just pass the mic around.
I think what is important is to see that there are two main actors globally, which are us and Getaround. And yeah, it's super also exciting that all these actors are growing, and we are hoping that it will give us enough leverage to make car sharing a habit, like more shared habits towards any communities.
Yeah, because one of the challenges would be that car sharing becomes more and more in the in the our habits,
yeah,
in
exactly.
daily life. Okay. Maybe, yeah, just Martin. Okay, no, sorry, I thought there were slides within.
Maybe Chloe, just maybe a little thing. For you to understand, there is several type of car sharing, and Getaround is have a special position in this market. For the first question, the first model is our model, which is a station-based, basically station-based or in a specific area based, where you pick up the car. So from a point A, you're doing your trip 1 hour, 1 day, during 1 week. during the time you want, and then you bring back the car at the exact or within an area, but you bring back the car at the point A. So that's the first model. And the second one is, the name is free floating, meaning that you can pick up a car at a point A and give it back at a point B. Maybe you're gonna think that, okay, that's a super small difference, but it makes all the difference because station-based station-based car sharing generates, and we're gonna talk about that after, a lot of benefits for the environment, for cities and so on, while free floating, it's super convenient. There is a lot of assets with that, but it's maybe less, it generates maybe less benefits to the society. So we're gonna talk maybe about that later.
Yeah, thanks for adding this. That was really like important to mention the difference between only point A and point B. And it directly connects to the next question, which is part of owning a car has to do with freedom. Okay, like I'm sure most of people actually get their license just to have this freedom to go anywhere. So yeah, freedom is to go anywhere at any time. How do you build Getaround and the entire service for freedom and around this notion?
Well, first of all, I wasn't there at that time, but the team decided to have these connect boxes that will allow people not to meet each other to exchange keys, but that will allow any drivers to open a car with their smartphone. So I think that was game changer, and this is what unlocked the freedom. And then it's a matter of pushing features that will kind of help to build this alternative that would be equivalent to having a car on yourself. So every time I talk with people about car sharing, the people who are owning a car tell me that, oh, I will never get rid of my car. It's freedom for me. I can take it whenever I want. I can go back home whenever I want. I can choose the journey I want to do. It's very spontaneous. But honestly, I think we today can provide most of those freedom, and it's a matter of thinking about what other also aspect of freedom car sharing service can offer. So I built this small table. I'm not going to read it, but yeah, for instance, I don't have to plan. Of course, with us, you will always have to book at some point. So there's an additional step. But if you think about, okay, I can take my car whenever I want, it's exactly what the Connect, the box can offer you. So you can book your car, but actually you can go whenever you want to the car and decide to drive it. Same with, I can come whenever I want. Of course, we had to build features so that you could extend anytime your rental. I put just a little star on this because there will be always a little constraint to that, if the car is rented by another driver, then you won't be able to extend it as much as you want. But actually, we don't have this much situation, and you can always like extend for 1 or 2 hours. So this flexibility is very important, and we can see it because one of the main reasons our regulars say that they choose us is because of this flexibility. They can take the car when they want and then can bring it back when they want. And then there's the localization of the car. Of course, one of our main stakes for Getaround was to provide a good network of cars in every cities. So being able to make the supply grow, being able to make it grow so where there are all the points of interest. So this is also, that was a big, I think, challenge to kind of convey the feeling of proximity. And proximity can be different. If you are in Paris, proximity will be walking to the car. But if you are in Bordeaux, it can be like 2 tramway stations, and that's fine. So I think here we are pretty good. But I also pulled a star on the private car on that one, because I think it's a luxury actually today in cities to be able to have your car right downstairs, because not everyone has a parking with a flat. So this is becoming less and less true when you are living in cities and if you are a city dweller, whereas of course if you are in the suburb it's different. And I also see that people who does own a car don't see some freedom they could acquire with car sharing, but I see that car sharers actually are very clear with that. And the first thing that car sharers always say that I don't want to have to manage my car. I don't want to have to maintain my car. So that's one of the biggest freedom I can get with car sharing. And this is something that is pretty powerful, I think. And I don't know if some of you decided to buy a car and you probably saw the difference.
Yeah, guilty. I have one.
I have one too. Since
Me too. It's to go surfing or horse riding, right?
Yeah, I have a van. And yeah, and there are other stuff. So that's one thing also I think is very interesting, that when you start to decide which car you want, you kind of adapt the model with your needs, your principal needs, but then you're stick with it.
Yeah.
You have only one car. But with a car, with a marketplace, you can choose the car depending on your needs. If you are going for a weekend with friends, you can decide to have a bigger one, more comfortable one. If you're just going for errands somewhere, then it's a city. If you want to go to IKEA, then you can choose an utility. So I think this is also something people still don't put their finger on it. Could be car share or people owning a car, but that's freedom too. Adapting
adapting the car
object to your needs. That's
Mm.
perfect. And as also Dimitri was saying, you don't have to worry with parking in cities, because most of our owners have a parking, and make sure that you take the car and you will know that at the end you will find a parking spot for your car. So no brainer.
No parking, no brainer.
Yes.
Just a question for anyone in the room. Raise your hand if you've ever used Getaround's product. Yay. Okay. And have you ever rented like different types of cars regarding the different maybe situation you were facing? Like you had to move out, so you took like a larger car, or like just a larger car to go somewhere with your friends. Have you like changed the different types of cars that you use? Raise your hand if you've done this. Okay, awesome. Okay, so you just unlocked the freedom of the service. Do you guys wanted to add something? Yeah.
Yeah, also about price, because I think this gives you the freedom to use your money for something else. We generally, the average price of owning a car, the yearly average, if you have like a new car, it's around 6,000 euros a year. If you really consider the whole duration of the time when you own the car. So with that amount of money, you could, like, the comparison point, it's probably you can book around 200 rental days on Getaround a year if you use it. So it's also a matter of what you do with the money that you unlock by letting go of that car. Of course, if you have a second-hand old car, it's not going to cost you 6,000 euros a year. But still, we use this claim because we think it's also a part of what makes car sharing great. Our solution, but any type of car sharing actually can provide this. And also, so the freedom for owners, I think sometimes it's when we talk about peer-to-peer car sharing, because we also have professional owners, but for people who share their cars, it's also a way for them, because you could say, so for most of these advantages are targeted at drivers, so people who rent our cars, but it's also relieving for some owners to share the costs of insurance, of parking, etc. If they're the ones which are supporting this work, because they basically share it with all the people who use their car.
So it's sharing your car and costs for owners. Dimitri, you wanted to add something? Fine. There was, I think there was a next slide also on this. No, okay, moving on to next question. That's awesome. So yeah, that was for freedom. Now this talk is about how does Getaround impact the way we build cities. And when we were preparing the talk, Charles, you were saying it's even beyond cities, like it's overall on the planet and on society. And so my question was, how do you actually measure your impact as a company on the environment. And since you're head of product and sustainability, we'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, so we've worked a lot on this topic in the past 2 years. And just to give you a general idea, so personal passenger cars are responsible for approximately in the largest countries, around 16-17% of all greenhouse gases emissions. So it's really the product that we use every day that has the largest carbon footprint. So one of our ambitions with car sharing is really to tackle this #1 cause of climate change. So we have different types of measuring our impact, and those are 3 examples. We calculate the rate of basically car equipment, so how many cars there are per capita. We calculate the CO2 emissions that we allow to avoid thanks to car sharing. And also, we've worked with the French administration on a specific survey that we're going to talk about right after that, which helped us evaluate how many parking spaces we can also free thanks to the use of car sharing and car sharing stations. And this is something that cities are really keen on developing, because an increasing number of cities want to build bike lanes or to plant trees within cities to help decrease temperature during the summer, especially because trees help regulate temperature. So finding ways to remove parking space is very interesting for them, and Dimitri will talk about our basically the way we talk with cities and how they're receiving our claims, and this is a really key item. So the way we worked with the French administration is that every 3 years they conduct a survey about car sharing, and as Dimitri mentioned, there's the free floating part and the round trip car sharing. So all players, many players are involved, but regarding our specific use, so each Getaround Connect car replaces between 5 and 8 private cars. So there's a margin of error. That's why there's always a higher and a lower bound for each of those numbers, because since it's based on surveys and research, they calculate a probability. So it's between 5 and 8, sorry. Each also Connect car saves between 7,000 and 22,000 kilometers per year. And in the cities where we operate, we can free up between 1 and 3 parking spots for each car. So this is one of the ways we really have proof of our environmental impact and just how we impact cities. It's with these specific KPIs.
Maybe I have just one question for this. I don't understand how it can save kilometers traveled. Can you go maybe a bit deeper on this?
Yeah. So what our mission is and where we want to go is really to replace car ownership. And when people let go of a car, they start changing their travel habits. So generally they just travel closer. They don't go as far as they used to. And also they use different other types of transportation. So public transportation, bikes, can be also scooters or even walking. And so this is the main reason why we save kilometers. It's because people tend to use other transportation types when they switch to car sharing, because they just don't drive their car for very small distances where there is a good offering, a good alternative. An interesting number is that in France, we still have 50% of all the trips under 2 kilometers that are done by car, which is really crazy. So if you don't own your car, those types of trips, you're no longer gonna do them with a car. You are going to walk or take a bike.
So if you don't have a car, you're going to switch transportation mode for all those 2 kilometers distance.
Yeah.
So
and
that's
hopefully
how,
more.
yeah, that's how you get to the 7K. And,
Exactly.
okay, awesome. Dimitri, you wanted to add something on this slide, maybe?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that later, but it's the good moment here too. It's sometimes counterintuitive when I talk to cities to tell them, okay, you want to free up some public space, then add new cars on streets, on stations. They're like, okay, but what are you talking about? But thanks to this study, now we have the proof that, okay, it's not a direct link, but on the medium term, it frees up some public space. So the more you add shared cars on Getaround, but it could be other operator, the more you add shared cars, the more you're gonna free up public space. So that's something super difficult to make them understand. But once they are convinced with this argument, after it's way more easy to develop car sharing with them.
Thank you for this. There was also a slide about GHG emission.
Yeah, so back to the way we measure our impact. I think probably back market people know about these concepts, but I think it's something that a lot of companies are going to explore deeper in the coming years. So there are basically 3 types of carbon emissions when you consider the impact of a company. There's the emissions that the company releases. So usually when you try to count those, you do it with carbon footprint inventory or greenhouse gas inventory. In French, they call it bilan carbone for the French speakers. Then there's the second type of emissions, which is thanks to this product or service, how much the quantity of carbon emissions that you're avoiding. And then the third type is offset. So when you finance a project that can capture carbon from the atmosphere, that's the third type. And so one of the big studies that we've also done recently is trying to really calculate precisely. So the bilan carbon is quite standardized now, and a lot of companies are doing it. In fact, I really encourage you to do it with your company if you haven't done it yet, because you learn a lot about your impact, but also your users when you do that. And this type of study about avoided emissions is really about comparing what happens with your product with an alternate reality. If your product didn't exist, how would users behave? And it's with this type of survey that we can identify the type of mobility or transportation shift that we talked about. It's when you compare so for example, the way we did it is that we took a lot of trips on the platform. We queried the users about this specific trip. Where did you go? Which distance? How many people were in the car, etc. And if you didn't do it with Getaround, what would you have done? And then with all the trips that you were doing with your car when you owned one, how are you moving now? And it's a very interesting field of research, I think, avoided emissions. And I think for back market, definitely there's also, I guess, a strong, I don't know if you studied it, ADEME, so the French administration responsible for this field is helping a lot of companies study this, and it's really very interesting to dive into it.
Thank you for adding this, because it's as you were saying, counterintuitive at the beginning to understand that if you add more cars, especially when you're going to the pro users who have like various vehicles that they will actually put on the streets, to understand that it actually lowers the emission in the medium or long term. So just quick, how do you say, légende on this slide. So if you want to have an impact on your carbon footprint, that's what we were basically saying, is that basically if you just reduce or get rid of your car and switch to car sharing, this is one of the biggest impact that you can have. That's how to maybe just summarize this.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Just wanted to add very
Sorry.
short two things about this sustainability part. First, we're very lucky in France because we have several types of administrations who fund this type of strategy and thinking. So if your company is keen on trying it, you should talk to Adam because they are offering cool subsidies to organize this kind of thing. And if you're interested to learn more about the way we did it or the way you can organize this in your company, I'm very happy to take half an hour or an hour to tell you more, because I think it also comes from the ground up, and I encourage you to keep asking questions to your leaders because probably it's one of the best way to get them started.
Thank you for this. Now, you've grown from a product designed for like community, like maybe BlaBlaCar was for covoiturage, and you bring it to a mass market product. So now, like we've seen in the audience, it's probably representative, maybe to like the population, but the next step you want to go in is to become a utility product. First of all, do you have any like figures about the number of cars and drivers that they have, that they are on Getaround right now?
Sure. Maybe just a precision about the mass market, because so there's like 1.5 billion cars on the world, on the planet, right? And in the country where we are operating, there are like 400 million cars. So imagine we are just representing 0.02% as car sharing.
Right.
So we are not a mass market. We would love to be a mass market. That would be a very great news for the planet and for us, but we are not. But it's also like super encouraging because there are many things to do, but still not a mass market. But what we try to be is extend, I think, our not impact, but like action. I think at first when I arrived, it was driving at that time, we were very much implemented in, for instance, in Paris and in big cities, but now we are like spread around France, same in US. So we are growing and being able to address smaller cities, such as Grenoble or La Rochelle. So that's really great. So this is how we can become not a mass market, but a bigger market anyway. So today there are like 72,000 cars on the marketplace. I know that we are operating on 950 cities in 8 countries, and we have around like 1.6 million users.
So like the opportunity for growing is huge. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yes.
It's like we have this, maybe because Drivey was French first, and it's growing into our minds and habits and in the startup kind of network, but it's still huge what you have to conquer on like changing habits and around the world.
And what can be frustrating, well, for me, I'm talking about myself, is that you also you want things to arrive quickly because you are convinced by that. But people's behavior needs to evolve like slowly but surely. I think what's happening, like for the one who are living in Bordeaux, you can tell that the city doesn't look the same as 4 or 5 years ago.
For sure.
So same for car sharing and this kind of new transportation. It comes also with people's behavior, evolution of behaviors, good network of transportation, public transportation. So we have, well, I have the feeling that I sometimes have to be patient. I don't know if you have the same feeling, but there's something that needs to be involved in each societies. Could be in the US, could be in France, could be somewhere else in Europe, and we have to grow with that. This is also why Dimitri's action is really important.
Yeah, Dimitri, tell us about your work at Getaround and like what's the next move?
Yeah, I think there is plenty of next move to do for the company, but regarding what I'm working on, I'm convinced that if we manage to talk to more cities, convince them to develop car sharing, it's gonna be a huge step to grow faster. The interesting thing is that 2 years ago, when I was contacting cities, it was super hard to reach them. So just get an appointment with them. And now, as car sharing became more and more well known, it became not super easy, but way more easy than before. 2 years ago, when we were talking about car sharing, there was like, okay, carpooling, yeah, I love BlaBlaCar, it's awesome. And now they know what we are talking about. Just maybe, can you raise your hand if you know the brand Cities with a Z at the end? Yeah, I see here. It's cars with blue roof. So this is our main competitor with Cities, IES. This is our main competitors. They are not super digital. I think that nobody knew them through the web or the application and so on. But they are super close to all the cities in France, metropolises and so on. And thanks to that, they gain some legitimacy. They benefit from a super huge visibility. So for those who don't know what is Cities with a Z, the brand, that's cars with blue roof. You can find Cities everywhere in France because they are super good in city relationships. So I think the next move, one of the next move for us is to be better at contacting them, convincing them, and try to tell them, okay, the brand Cities is super nice, super convenient for short rentals and so on, but you need to develop car sharing by adding new operators. It can be Getaround, but it can be other competitors that are positioning in different segments, so that each people who are passing through a station on the street behind just below their house, they can then have the choice to select one from the choice A, B, C that could fit their needs. So I think for me the next move is that. So create more partnership with them, and maybe another one that is not directly linked, but we can talk about that. There is a link. It's around electric vehicles. Obviously, for the moment we have not a large volume of electric vehicle on the platform, but it's growing and growing super fast. So we have 3, 4, 5 times more electric cars than 2 years ago. So it's growing super fast in the right way. It's hard to combine the products and the real electric car on the platform. So we are growing slowly, but what did you say, Nassim?
Surely.
But surely. But yeah, I think it's one of the next move. And the link with the cities and metropolises and so on is that 2 years ago, they were like, okay, you want to give us some petrol car, it's perfect. That's car that are shared. So anyway, it's super nice for the environment and so on. And now they are always asking for at least a mix between petrol or hybrid or electric cars. It's always like that. So now, as Getaround, we need to step up and to accelerate on it to fit the needs of the cities.
Maybe, yeah, a little digression on this. What's the difference, like from a product point of view? No, but I'm asking like even product people, what does it change on Getaround's product to rent an electric car from
Yes,
like
I was about to bounce back on that.
I would say normal one, but like thermical one, maybe.
It's a challenge. So it's a big challenge because EV are not that easy to rent compared to gas cars. So we would love to make it as easy to rent them as a gas car. We are lucky because we have Norway in the company, and we have a team in Norway, and the Norwegian market is way more mature regarding electric vehicles. They have 40% of their fleet on the marketplace that are electric. So we decided to build that sustainability squad, and half of the squad is actually located in Norway. So it helps us to figure out better what are the challenges with people who are more used to the use of them. And we are adding more and more guidance to rent electric vehicle. The main challenge, I would say, as a product designer, even for a product manager, is that so we are used to gas cars, so you always know how to fill the tank. But for electric vehicle, you will have like different ports to charge the car, different cables, and depending on where are you, like which country you are in, cables and ports will be also different. So there's like not any universal system that will just ease the life of the product designer and product manager, but also for the drivers. So yeah, so we try to make it easier, but it's a real challenge because I think as it's the beginning for EVs, OEM are not standardizing the way they're like that we are charging car. Sometimes it will be in front of the car, sometimes it will be behind the car. And if you think about just France, people are not used to electric cars, so they don't know how to charge. They don't know how much do it take to charge. Is it fast charging or not? So yeah, that's a big challenge to make it more, more easy to understand. No bad experience with Getaround or this kind of thing. So we have a whole team working on that.
So we can't wait for the USB-C cable for cars. Okay, makes sense. Yes, Charles.
Yeah, so maybe to zoom in a little more on really product part. Even for research, it's really very interesting because you know, some of the members of the team have an electric car, but you don't know the diversity of situations before you really talk to people. And so I think it's one of the most challenging research topics that we've conducted in the company. It was also studying the Norwegian users and the French users at the same time. And actually, because the infrastructure is very different in each country, where in Norway they have a lot of fast chargers, whereas in France we have very few. You have to build the products in a different way, and even your pricing policy is sometimes different because of the infrastructure of the power infrastructure, not really because of cars or of our products, just because the way the country is built is different. So yeah, it's a very interesting challenge from a product perspective, and also for owners, so people who operate cars. At the moment, it's also a very big challenge to own and because some of our owners are professionals, so they want really to earn money with each car they're investing in. And when you have an electric car which needs to be charged between each rental, you need to really become very good at combining the right rentals so that you can have a good utilization rate of your car. Also, people have a lot more questions when they use EVs. They don't know the range, the autonomy, etc. So for the owner, they have to answer all these questions or find smart ways to let people troubleshoot any situations themselves. So yeah, in the beginning you just think, okay, you replace gas with EV, but in the end it's almost any step of the experience you need to change it around, because it generates a lot of stress for different types of users. So yeah, we're excited to work on this because I think companies which will in the car sharing space which will really nail this new trend, we'll have a very big competitive advantage.
Like, I surely was not aware of all of this. Thanks for sharing this. It makes so much sense, actually. It's directly linked, I think, to the next question, which is, how can you become like this utility product and compete with shared transportation? So shared bikes, we've seen shared scooters, or even public transport. So what does it take to become like this utility product? And how can you just be in the city as like all those different transportation types?
Yeah, the first question is super interesting because that's exactly the thing we don't want to do. It's to compete with other means of transport. I mean, what did I read? Yeah, the objective is not to compete with them. It's to be complementary to this, to what does already exist. Meaning that, how can I say? But the ADEME highlighted super well in the study. Once somebody start to use a car which is shared, so it can be a Getaround, directly the proportion of use of public transport, shared bike, scooter, and so on increase directly. I have some figures. For instance, once somebody starts using a car which is shared, it's increased by 10%. The use of public transport, by 20% the use of bicycle, and 30% the walk. So it's huge. That's the reason why we don't want, and we are not competing with them. And we don't want to be a substitute, meaning that if a journey can be done with a public transport, that won't be super logical that a car that doing it with a car which is shared. Well, yeah, it's not super relevant to do that with a car if it can be done with public transport. Okay, the same for bike and so on. So we really want to be complementary to this means of transport.
So for instance, like a usage would be to have a shared car in like stations, when you can go to the station with public transport, but then to go to your house or to go to the specific place, exactly, you need a car, and so you will take a share car. Okay.
That's also the reason why it's very key when we discuss with cities or even with owner, when we give them advice on where to locate their car, to not put the car where finally there is maybe no need to put cars, but to push them to locate cars at on hubs, maybe at the end located in train station and so on, so that they can take a train and then take a car to go to reach their appointment, for instance. So yeah, that's very important. And to maybe answer the second part of the question, what does it take to become a utility product? Just to be sure, utility product, you mean maybe a utility public product?
Exactly, public, okay, utility product. But what I mean by this question is like, and maybe there's a parallel with carpooling and what BlaBlaCar did back then, is like now you have those dedicated spaces to carpool. It's like advertised in the public space, and in cities you would see you know, like advertisement or even mention of carpooling on highways, like to reduce your impact, just try carpooling. So yeah, my question is more, what does it take to bring car sharing to this kind of level of awareness in the public space?
Yeah, very, very interesting question. And just to bounce back on what you just said, I don't know if you all know about that, but Lyon, Grenoble, and other cities, maybe Bordeaux, created some specific lanes dedicated to people who are doing carpooling. That's what I understood at first sight, but it's actually not carpooling. It's just being more than one in the car. So if you are two, you can take this lane. And why I'm talking about that, just to give you a figure that is quite interesting, it's on average, car that is shared, like Getaround, on average, there is 3 people in the car. While for a classic car, which is a personal car, on average, there is 1.2 people in the car. So using car sharing push people to share it in both sense, to share it and be more within the car. And yeah, so to answer the question, maybe what does it take to be a public utility product? Maybe 3 things super important, I guess. The first one is to be well known by all the territory. Here, for those who can see the small dots, the purple ones just illustrate the cities that certified Getaround as a car sharing operator. Maybe you could think, okay, what does it mean concretely? It means that we tick a lot of rules, requirements, so that we are now well known to be a real car sharing operator. A company that is only renting cars, like with a traditional way, won't be certified by these cities. So it's a huge step for us to have been certified, labelized. It's label autopartage in French, but we are now so certified by Marseille, Nice, Lyon, Paris, and Lille metropolises. And the blue dots represent the cities, the main cities we've met. Obviously, we met Bordeaux a few years ago. We are not certified for the moment, but we are working hard on it. But I think it's the first step to be a utility, a public product. It's to have this legitimacy and say, okay, we are certified by public authorities. So now you can use us super because it has been certified. And 2 other points, maybe to be a public utility product, it needs to be super accessible. Because if you have to walk 20-30 minutes to get to your car, maybe it's not going to be enough to get rid of your own car. It's like a Vélib or a V-Cube in Bordeaux. The bikes, if there was one station to get a bike, you needed to work during 20 minutes. Maybe it won't have been as efficient as it today. So accessibility is key, and that's also a reason why we are talking with cities, because they are giving us some public space, like cities with a Z, the blue roof cars have in Bordeaux. It allows us to be located in super key areas where there is a lot of needs. So accessibility is very key. And maybe the last one is, we talked about that just before, to offer a large range of car type, because if you only have one car type, it won't fit all the needs you could have. In Getaround, you have mini, like a Twingo, a Fiat 500, you can use to go to your appointments. We have medium cars to fit all the needs, biggest car to go on weekend to pack all your luggage in the back, and go in weekend with your family and your kids, and also bigger car like utilities 3, 6, 9 meters square to move on your flat. So if we didn't have this range of car type, I think that it's going to be accessible only for super specific use cases. And thanks to this range, maybe we can assess more usage. You want to add something?
Since we have like a few minutes left, I would very like to have your thoughts on this one. So the last question, and it's interesting, like from my perspective, because I'm working in more the building and interior design part, but there is something very important in the conception of a building and how we build cities, and that's what inspired also the talk. It's like the first matter of interest are parking slots, and the entire building is determined by the number of parking slots that a building can have. And I'm not sure if you guys were familiar with this, but it's actually how constructors build buildings. Like the first worry is how many parking slots can we create so that we can build a bigger tower. And it's true in Bordeaux, it's true in France and across the world. But with car sharing, we could have like spots available with the car, and it could actually change the way we build, and then the way we build even the building themselves. So I thought you guys had like some figures of some thoughts, like it's already probably in the concerns of cities. Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah, so cities are really trying to optimize the place that car has since many years, but they are about to realize that they need to optimize that. They are not alone. Property developers, as you mentioned them, are really into it. We received a lot of offers like that. In San Francisco, it's already live. I mean, we have some cars that are shared within this building and accessible to all the households who are living in this building. Why is it so important to talk about that? It's because property developers today, for them, it's mandatory to create parking spots and as many parking spots as there is a household. So it's huge. It's something like 1 or 1.5 parking spots per flat. So it's something huge. And they have a solution to solve this issue and to avoid building so much spaces that is sometimes not used at all. It's to propose car sharing. And actually, it's cool. Yeah, it's super logical to propose that. In San Francisco, they launched few cars that are shared with all the inhabitants of the building, and it's allowed the property developer to reduce the number of parking spots. So that's just an example, but it can be huge for cities with super high density, like Bordeaux in the city center, Paris, obviously, Lyon, and so on. So car sharing can really change building construction. I saw a video last evening about the history of urbanization, and they explained that during the 60s, they created a lot of new cities in Île-de-France. It's Évry, Créteil, Saint-Quentin-en-Yvelines, and so on, because of the baby boom, because of a lot of external factors. But they created a lot of cities at around 50 kilometers from the city center, which was Paris. And it was super convenient because the use of car in the same time the democratization of the car was at the same time. So super convenient. We can use our own car, go from Saint-Quentin-en-Yvelines to Paris by car. It was super convenient. But 60 years after, so today, we realized that it was maybe not the best thing they did in terms of transport, and they are reconsidering the way of thinking buildings and public space because of that. So now, how can I say that? Now they are really, before creating new buildings, thinking about urban expansion. They are first thinking about what could we do with transport? Should we create some parking spots for cars? Should we create some charging station for EV cars? Or rather create some public transport? So it's very key in their reflection. I think it's for the good.
For the best.
For the best.
For the good and best. Thank you so much. Oh,
Can I just add something?
yeah, add something.
I think there's one point that we didn't cover because we talked a lot about cities, daily life, personal use, but there's something we would like to crack is a business trip.
Oh, wow.
Because that's your daily life and when you want to do whatever you want with a car, but there are also business trips that have been done with cars. And it's definitely something we would like to tackle. We know that we have a great market fit with small businesses, medium businesses. We added some features so that you can register a whole team, being able to invoice. But yeah, this is also something I think that where we would like to grow and make sure that we cover all the possibilities with cars.
All types of transportation and
yes,
and
because we
usage,
talked a lot about cities and how you can live in the cities, but there's also the business.
All right.
Trips.
It's very exciting. Thank you. Thanks a lot, you guys.